All right, so let's talk about picker views and how to populate them. We'll begin by clicking Create a new Xcode project. It's going to be a single view application. We're going to click Next. Let's name this Picker App. Make sure the language is set to Swift and the device is iPhone. Click Next. Save it wherever you want to. Hit Create. Let's go to the storyboard and start setting up this app. I'm going to highlight the view controller by clicking on it and turning it blue like that. I'm going to go over to this button, the third button from the right, which is the Attributes Inspector. In the Size drop-down menu, I'm going to switch it to iPhone 4-inch, and the orientation will be Portrait. Now, let's go down and add a picker. So I'm going to type in picker just so it comes up a lot quicker. You have a choice between a date picker, which we've all seen on the iPhones, and a picker view. So I'm going to drag this onto our view controller. And you can see it comes as a default, it comes with a several cities in California. So we're going to preload this with our own information. And to do that, let's highlight our view controller. We're going to go over to the button on the far right, which is the Connections Inspector. Click on that. Hang on one second. You're going to click on the picker. Click on the picker. Go over to the Connections Inspector. And we're going to set the delegate to be our view controller. All right. So this will enable us to access some of the Xcode's methods. Let's go to our viewcontroller.swift file. First thing we're going to do is make sure that we are a UI picker view. Let's hold on one second. View delegate. And make sure we put the comma in between the two. There we go. All right, now this lets us know that our view controller is going to handle being the UI PickerView delegate. Now, let's start creating an array which we will use to populate the picker. Let's call it var food is equal to open and close square brackets. That's Swift's type inference for array, and we're going to start adding apples, end quote, and a comma. Next one's going to be bananas. That's also going to be in quotes and a comma to separate. Grapes. Let's do pears. And finally, blueberries. All right, so this is an array called food, and it's populated by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. Each one is separated by a comma. And this is what we're going to use to populate our picker. Now, there are a few mandatory methods that we must use with our picker view. And then to find out what those are, take your cursor, go over up to the UI Picker View Delegate, hover over it, hit your Command button, and it'll turn into the hand cursor. Click on that, and you'll see down here of all these different functions and variables and how your UI Picker class can be used. We need to use these two, the number of components in PickerView and the number of rows in components. So we're going to start by highlighting the first one, Command-C to copy, click back on viewcontroller.swift file in your navigation pane, and let's paste it by Command-V here, and open curly brace, close curly brace. Let's give ourselves some room. So what do we need to do here? We need to know the number of components in PickerView, and that's going to return an integer. So what does this mean? Well, you know how like the date picker in an iPhone really has like 3 spinning wheels. It's got I'd say, let me think, the months, so it's January through December, and then maybe the next wheel over is the dates choices, which is usually the 1st to the 31st. And then I think the most right wheel is the day of the week, I believe. Oh, no, the year. So that's preloaded with whatever the range of the years is going to be. So that's sort of 3 different spinning wheels, quote unquote. For our purposes, we only need 1 spinning wheel. We just want 1 spinning wheel in our PickerView that will go through all of the components in our food array. So we're going to return 1. Now let's go back up to UI PickerView with our cursor, Command, click on it, and let's get that other method. Here it is, the number of rows in components. So I'm highlighting that, Command C to copy, go back up to my View Controller Swift file. Let's give ourselves some room. Command V to paste. And here, okay, now let's stop the error by giving ourselves some curly braces. There we go. Now what is this one? This one wants to know the number of rows in the wheel. So how many rows are there going to be? Well, we're going to have 1 row for each element of this array. So what do we need to do? We need to return an integer because it wants us to return an integer up here. So return, and our array is called food, and we're going to access the count because we may be adding to this array. So can't always say, oh, it's going to be, return 5, because suppose we want to add a different food or take out some food. So we always want to just to access its count. So we're going to do return food dot count. And now the last method I'm looking for is, it's called title for row. So I'm going to go back up to my UI PickerView delegate, click on that, and I do believe that that is here. It's down here. Let me give you some little more room so you can see. Func PickerView. It says title for row. And this is the one we're going to use. So highlight it, Command C, View Controller dot Swift. Go back, Command V to paste it. Let's do our opening and curly braces. Give ourselves some room. And what are we going to return? We're going to return a string because we've asked it to return a string. And what kind of string do we want? Well, we want to return all of these elements, 1 per line of the PickerView. So we're going to return food, and we're going to return, open and close square brackets, and we're going to return the row for each row of the UI picker. So let's see, I'm not getting any warnings. I think we are good to go. We have our variable called food, and it's preloaded with these 5 items. We know we need just 1 wheel in the number of components. The number of rows in our wheel is going to equal the number of items in our array called food. And then finally, we're going to put those items in each row of the pick array, and we're getting those values from the array called food. So let's run this. Build succeeded. And here we go. Here we have a PickerView with all of our items that we put in our array called food.